Hi everyone and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell, for another Elite 11 team reveal. Timestamps are on the video if you want to hop around. We've got Mark back on, he's having a great season. We're midway through double game week 29, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back, Mark, to the channel for yourself. You haven't been on for 4 or 5 game weeks. We can see on the graph here it's been pretty steady going for you. How's the season been going, mate?
Hey Tom, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, it's not been great, not been awful over the last few weeks. I think a lot of people are, experiencing the same kind of stuck in the mudness.
Yeah,
Really,
they
it's
are.
hard to make a move. I think if you don't differentiate somewhere, you can probably expect to get these flat lines. I've
Yeah.
got a little bit of a green arrow this week thanks to that Newcastle Manchester United game there. So happier than I was at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we're recording on Sunday after or evening, guys. So, yeah, Mark's a Man United fan, but of course, in FPL terms, we don't care about that. We care about those points, don't we? So, we're going to talk about that in just a moment. We can see, Mark, as well, you, like a lot of managers, have got that bench boost chip active. So, we are right at the midpoint, aren't we, in terms of the big double game week. So, loads of opportunities to get even more points for this green arrow. So I'm not going to talk about this graph too long. Obviously, we've had you on the channel a few times, Mark. We can see you're right around that kind of 50k mark, and look at that league position in the Elite 11 fantasy league, which, goodness me, I don't have any cause to be in that one, but you are leading the way there. So whether or not you can continue that is going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But without further ado, what we're going to do is take a look at the double game week team that you put together, Mark. See at the points so far. I'm really interested to see the thought processes that went into selecting that team. So let's take a look at how you're getting on so far. Okay, guys, so I was saying we are recording on Sunday evening, and the Man United game away at Newcastle has just finished sort of 20-30 minutes or so ago. So this has been updated off the back of that, and we can see straight away that it's brought you points, Mark, but maybe not in the way that you were necessarily expecting. Let's talk through this team then that you've established here, and the bench is obviously super relevant here because you have got that bench boost chip activated. So I guess we'll talk through goalkeepers first of all. You've got the Kepa Raya double up. I was a man that predicted Campbell would have a great game week off the back of this international. Probably didn't necessarily expect him to pick up points after conceding 3, but the goalkeepers there, Mark, were they the two standouts for you? Did you feel like you were missing out on any other options, or were these the two that you thought were great options for game week 29 and beyond?
I think when the dice was rolled for this double game week, which was back in week 25, I think they were easy picks. There wasn't too much controversy around picking them. If I was going into this week, maybe I wouldn't have picked the same keepers. I might have gone with De Gea or something. But there's nothing really wrong with Raya or Kepa. It did look 2 weeks ago like Chelsea were getting it together. Everybody jumped on Chilwell. But this is the story of this season for me. I think getting Chilwell was fine. A lot of people did it. Yesterday, he hit the post.
Yeah, God,
he had a goal disallowed. That's subjective. What you think of that? He was fouled on the edge of the area. So 0 points, disappointing, sure, but he has he's had opportunities for attacking returns, and I think that's what we're looking at this season. We don't have such a reliable set of clean sheet providers. So we have to get guys like Estepinian, we have to get people like Chilwell and Shaw, and as you can see, Trippier, and get the defensive return. So while Chilwell hasn't been doing it, I'm quite happy I got him.
Spot on,
even
man.
though he hasn't got points for me.
I couldn't agree more. The last time I had one of the Elite 11 team reveals, just prior to the Chilwell bandwagon, I guess, kind of starting, we were just reflecting on his level of performance and the way that he was playing being really encouraging. I think we kind of reflected that Chelsea defensively didn't look incredible, and they were certainly improving, but actually him as a performer from the avenues to points that FPL provide looked super encouraging. And I guess you'd feel the same way with Estupinian. I know he played through a great chance for Matoma, didn't he, in the weekend's game against Brentford as well?
Yeah, I sold Estepinian last week in order to obviously get 11 players for the skinny game.
Yeah.
Was that last week? Yeah. And I ate a little bit of, for want of a better word, humble pie and got him back.
Hmm.
But I kept Henry. Henry got me 2 points last week, so it's not a big loss.
No.
I was between getting Estepinian and Dunk on the
Gunk.
Brighton side,
Yeah.
and then Martinez perhaps for the United game.
Hmm.
And I just thought about it, and I thought, look, Martinez is a pretty boring pick. I'm going to get the guy who's hanging around the box.
Yeah.
Um, Again, not working out, but the day will come,
Not so
so I
far,
don't feel
right?
too
Still
bad
got
about
that
it.
Bournemouth game to
Yeah,
go as well, and again in terms of the attacking sort of style of play that I saw over the weekend, you'd still be pretty encouraged, wouldn't you? I mean, looking at
yeah.
that bench as well, which is obviously in play, Mark, for this one. I've got a question about your transfer as well, but that bench, Harry Kane being there, obviously new manager or sort of old manager has now been removed. How are you feeling about Kane as a prospect for your team ongoing? We've talked previously about this great run of fixtures Spurs have, and he's having a great season irrespective of the Conte situation. How's he looking in terms of his prospects staying in Mark's team?
It will depend on how I want to line up for double game week 34.
Hmm.
He's certainly going to stay for the next while. Um, I see no reason to remove him.
No.
He is inevitable. People say that about players, but he is. You can watch Spurs. He's not doing much, and then he taps in at the far post from a
Yeah.
corner. He'll get a penalty. He's just so reliable, and we're dealing with a lot of unreliable players at the moment.
Yeah.
He's just like a comfort blanket for anyone who has him.
It's a nice way of thinking about it, isn't it? Harry Kane is inevitable, a comfort blanket, as those types of sort of comparisons we make, isn't it? And that we like as FPL managers,
Yeah,
right? There's so much that you can't predict, but he feels like one of the things that you kind of can.
yeah, he's such a pro. He
Mm.
he knows how to get goals. I kind of had a thought that coming back from the World Cup, maybe he'd be a bit down. Not at all. He's just got a great
No.
mentality. He's always back for more.
Yeah.
So
And you might be seeing a lot
he
more of
might
him,
go.
right, at Old Trafford in the future. Who knows?
I don't know. That would be nice.
Yeah, we'll
It would
see.
be maybe a Robin van Persie type signing.
Oh man, yeah. I'll annoy
But
the Spurs fans by that, but it leads us nicely on to the Man United,
yeah,
I guess, conversation. Mark, you've got Bruno Fernandes, you've got Marcus Rashford. Interesting rather to see that you didn't choose to captain Rashford. He was obviously a very popular captain pick. You've gone for McAllister, who got that late penalty and again looked good in that Brighton midfield. What was it that steered you away from Rashford? Was it the injury concern, or did you see something in the form?
yeah, it was. Well, I'm not big on United anyway. I didn't get Shaw in this week. I didn't really want to get Fernandez, but the thing with Rashford was he was injured. I didn't know anything about the injury. Could have been a joke injury.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been serious, and I still don't know. Is he fit for Wednesday? Was he playing at 80% today? He didn't look great today,
No.
and it was just that idea that I didn't know enough about his situation,
Mm-hmm.
and there were perfectly viable alternatives. If it was Haaland this week with that kind of yellow flag, if it was someone of Haaland's caliber in a double, I definitely would have taken the chance. But Rashford, I
Interesting.
think there were viable alternatives. So, I was happy to go after March or McAllister, and given the numbers that came out of that game yesterday,
Christ, yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it
unbelievable.
was, wasn't it?
Um,
Absolutely crazy stats in that one, absolutely. And
yeah, yeah,
if people are interested, head over to fantasyfootballfix.com and take a look at the Game Week live match stats for that game, because it is absolutely extraordinary, the sort of numbers that both teams were generating. Yeah, definitely.
and I think what you've got to think about, this game week's not over
No.
because what you might call the money games are coming
Mm.
for both United and Brentford,
Mm.
or sorry, United and Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are the games where we thought the returns would
Yeah.
be, is the midweek games. So
And they'll need to react,
yeah,
right? United.
McAllister,
United will
fine.
need to react now, won't they?
Yeah, I mean, you look at that team. So when I saw the team today, you look at it and there's a quality issue there.
Mm.
I won't get into who, but there's five guys I think there that just aren't really good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You can carry two, you can carry three. When you get to five, you've got a
That's too
problem.
many.
And that you could see it today, just not good enough
You and I would.
as a collective.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree, Mark. And obviously, you, Man United fan, watch them more than I do. But we were talking prior to recording, and that central midfield does feel like United really struggle to function when you take the likes of Christian Eriksen and Casemiro out as a collective. Certainly, one of them in is better than neither. But when they're both missing, goodness me, it's night and day, right?
Yeah, I think Eriksen's a huge loss. I think, a lot of people, I think the fawning over Casemiro has possibly been a bit much this year. It's Eriksen that's given them the real control. And since Eriksen's gone, they've lost a bit of that.
Interesting.
But it's the same in any team. Liverpool's problems come from the midfield.
Fabinho,
at the start of the season, Chelsea had some problems with midfield. I think if you get a good midfield, you can paper over a lot of cracks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the Kante loss, I guess, or absence based on age, form, fitness, etc. Fabinho being nowhere near the high level he's been at, and Scott McTominay versus Casemiro or Eriksen, it's not really a like for like, is it? No, just a reminder of the question I was going to ask you, Mark, in relation to that transfer, bringing back Estupinian, who's got a glut of fixtures. We know doesn't play in 32, but has a lot of fixtures, great upside, etc. But you transferred him out for that blank game week prior to this one, but you've seen the need to bring him back in. Found that really interesting, actually. Do you find that your competitors, maybe not in the elite league, are too sort of pig-headed and stubborn and won't kind of admit where they need to do that? Is that something that you've seen? Because it's not something that I would necessarily trust myself to do, and I'd probably be a bit stubborn.
Yeah, I don't think I call people pig-headed. I think subconsciously you don't want to contradict yourself, or you don't want to think that, like, nobody cares what I do with my team. So it's not like
we all do, Mark.
I don't care what
we all do.
Think.
We all do.
Not really. Everyone only cares about their own team. But it was like I could have had, as I said, Dunk, Martinez, or Estepinian, and it is a reason not to get him back, really, that I sold him before. Yeah. Like, I knew it could come to this, and I chose to just keep Henry in order to have the extra game. Sure. That would have looked fantastic if he had kept a clean sheet. He got 2 points that I wouldn't have otherwise got. It's fine. Yeah. I don't care.
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Agree, mate. All right, cool. Look, before we come on to the bench, I know we talked a little about Kane as well, but that front two's obviously done the business for you in the first round of games. Ivan Toney picking up a nice finish in the crazy game we referred to as well. Ollie Watkins, man, what a run he's been on, and what a run of fixtures they have upcoming. How long have you had him in, Mark? And is he looking like a player that's likely to stay in the team for the rest of the stretch?
I got Ollie Watkins a long time ago, and I had plans, and then the plans changed when we had that FA Cup midweek where everybody's plans got turned their head. So I had Watkins then I got rid of him because I knew I'd bring him back in the wild card. Right. So I've been into him for a while. I think he's a good player. He's one of these guys who has a bit of a reputation in FPL circles for being a trouble. If you look at what he does in a game, he's a really good player. I think. Like, that was really cool what he did yesterday.
Yeah, it was a clever finish, wasn't it?
By cool, I mean calm.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to have him. I think we might see a little bit later on when we look at a captaincy matrix. He can be captain sometimes. Yeah. So Emery's a really good manager. Like, that was a huge coup for Villa to get him. And now they're ticking. So
they're playing well, right? They are playing well. I've had occasion to watch them since he's taken over. I really like how they're set up defensively and offensively. To be fair to them, I think there's been a couple of blips defensively, but they look like a cohesive unit. And there's definitely some FPL options. And you're right to bring attention to the fact that a little bit later on in the video we're going to be looking at some potential captaincy options, guys, over the next 5 game weeks. So stay tuned for that as well. In terms of that bench, Mark, you've obviously got the Brentford guys playing your mob away from home midweek as well. Saka obviously just had the one game. It was such an attractive game, picked up a bit of a bug. Southgate flogged him on international duty. What are you going to do, right? It was a great fixture. He's been in incredible form. Just the breaks, I guess.
Yeah, really nothing to say about it. I had toyed with the idea of selling Saka over Odegaard just in terms of value. And I didn't. I'm happy to have him next week against Liverpool. So, nothing to say.
No,
It happened.
that's life. That's FPL. Nothing
Yeah.
you could have done about that at all. Totally agree with that. So
Nah.
we won't go on about that. And Harry Kane, we've talked about. So I guess that's how you're set up. 66 points on a -4 with a load more games to come, Mark. So feeling pretty happy about that, and it'll be interesting to see how that total ends up when the game week finishes. But good on you for that. So I think next section, Mark, we're going to take a little look at your bust team ahead for game week 30. Obviously, guys, this is going to be caveated up to the hilt as we're still midway through the game week. There's a load of games to be played and injuries and all that jazz, but I thought it'd be interesting to show how Mark's intending, in inverted commas, to be set up for game week 30. So let's take a little look. Okay, so this is what we're looking at then, Mark, and I guess straight away the attention will be to that captain's armband in the front and centre there of Erling Haaland coming back into the team for the Southampton away match. Goodness me, Southampton losing to West Ham today. God, finally some positivity for West Ham on this video. It's been waiting a long time for that, but that looks like your intended transfer. Obviously, we'll say that's pending the fitness news and the updates that I'm sure we'll get over the next few days. Bit of a no-brainer, bringing him in, lots of money in the bank, and then he'd be set fair for the rest of the season.
I think it was a no-brainer until it became a brainer.
No.
It's going to be a tough one because City really played well yesterday. Really
well. Yeah.
Now, the game is at 5:30 next Saturday, and Tony is playing at home. I don't know what I'll do. I think we all had it kind of predestined in our minds that Tony was going to get booked this week. He's halfway there, and the picture we painted for ourselves was he'll get booked. I'll have the money left over to buy Haaland. It's going to be the easiest thing ever. And these things never.
And since he goes and picks up 9 points at the midpoint and doesn't get booked, and he's got a home game. Yeah, it's a hard life, man.
Tough.
Yeah, hard life. Yeah.
Yeah. I could consider maybe doing something about my defense.
Yeah.
But
I'm
not really interested in.
Well, let's assume this happens, right? Let's say he gets the yellow card, or Erling Haaland's confirmed by Guardiola as available, and what have you. Go ahead and make that transfer. I'm more interested in looking at that defensive pick of Estupiñán playing Spurs away when you've got Kane in the team and Shah not. Off the back of the clean sheet. Is that something that might change? Are you set on that? Is that just that upside of Estupiñán being such an attacking player?
Well, that configuration is mainly driven by the fact that I have 3 doubles and I don't want to get too involved in any one of those games.
I see.
So,
okay, interesting.
Maybe I could play 2 Newcastle, but do I want to play 2 Newcastle? It's a balancing act there. That's how Estupiñán got in. I know a lot of people would look at FPL review or fantasy football fix predictions and just go with the top there, but I would prefer to spread my risk.
Spread the risk. Fascinating, man. I'm glad I asked the question because I wouldn't have known that would have been the thinking there to try and. It's maybe if you were chasing rank, would that differ, Mark, or is that just the way that you'd say just actually?
Not really. I don't really care about chasing or competitors. I just want to get the most points on balance. So I think we forget when Brighton were less fashionable last season. They did a job on Tottenham.
Oh God, I still back them to win. Absolutely, for sure.
So why not play Estupiñán?
Yeah. No, I like it as well. I do, but then having said
Plus
that,
it makes my backtracking better.
It makes it more like a worthwhile transfer. Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I think Brighton are an incredible team. I could spend the whole video talking about how much fun they are and great FPL pickups that they've had all season long. Definitely, I do quite like Newcastle defensively. I can't remember whether or not it was Corey or possibly Craig who was talking about. Or maybe even Corbs was talking about how Newcastle have been a bit unfortunate there. Their numbers have been maligned, but actually it's been because of pretty tough fixture run, actually. And when those fixtures get better, they're expecting them to improve again. So look, you're set up well, aren't you? Even if you do decide to change things, or if there is an unlikely substitute.
I'm happy enough with the attacking potential of these guys.
Yeah.
I think if we've learned anything over the last few weeks is that numbers are numbers, and they don't seem to mean anything over the last few weeks.
Yeah, agree with that. March over McAllister, is that a definite there as well? Mark, that's just a personal preference thing in terms of having Solly March edging out McAllister, even with McAllister on pens.
I'll see tomorrow night how Tottenham look. If they look a little bit vulnerable on the counter attack, I'll play March. If not, I'll play McAllister.
I see, and nice options there on the bench, and you'd be kind of comfortable with McAllister, Shah, or I guess even Henry coming off the bench if they needed to. It looks like you're set up well for game week 30 as well. You're just making that one transfer, so that looks good to me, Mark. Right? Any thoughts looking a little bit just before we look at the captaincy matrix we referred to? Any thoughts looking ahead to the blank game week in game week 32, Mark? What's your kind of plan associated with that game week?
Yeah, I made my choice. I made my bet when I bought Estepinian. It's going to be a free hit. I think when you look at what it could be, you've got to have 3 Arsenal. You'd probably get 3 Liverpool.
There's lots of players, right? So you'd have Brighton, Chelsea, Man City, and Man United are all blanking in that game week. So it looks like it's kind of your decision made for you in that respect, right?
Yeah, I'd normally prefer to free hit in a double game week, but it's just the way it's fallen. Yeah. You can prepare quite adequately for 34, so it's fine.
Comfortably. Yeah, that seems like the sensible play, and it seems like that'll be what a lot of managers will be doing. But that doesn't mean to say that the run-in is completely without things to navigate and things to negotiate. And to that end, we've pulled together a little matrix here, guys, of some players that you might be looking at in terms of future captaincy selections for the next 5 game weeks. So let's take a little look at those players. Cool. So what we're looking at here, guys, you can see we've looked from game week 30 through game week 34, and we've got a selection of different players from different teams then on the rows rather than the columns there, and highlighting some nice options in terms of players that you might be looking to either bring into your squads for the next game week or certainly target as we get closer to the end of the season. So Erling Haaland, Mark, at the top then, we're talking about, let's just assume rather that he's going to be fit for game week 30. We're suggesting that he's a reasonable captaincy choice for all of the next 5, barring, of course, the blank game week that we just referred to in 32. Is that how you're feeling? You feel like he's a nailed-on pick, fitness notwithstanding?
You might choose in 33 to do something else, but I think anybody who knows that Haaland is starting in 30, 31 or 34 probably should pick him as the captain.
Yeah.
But, you mentioned a few minutes ago about people chasing, and I think at this stage of the season you really have to think maybe they're down the stretch, maybe you take a few alternative punts.
Sure.
Maybe Watkins in 33. If you're really brave, something like Madison in 30. Not that I do it myself, but desperate times sometimes call for desperate measures.
Yeah, and
the main.
Sorry, go on, Mike.
The main interest I have here in looking at this is to determine the correct time to do the Kane Salah switch that inevitably is going to be mainstream. I think around potentially 32. I wouldn't fancy losing Kane before Bournemouth.
No.
And I would like to have Salah for Nottingham Forest,
in
West
32?
Ham, in a double.
Yeah. Although they do have Leeds away prior to that as well, which is I guess a tasty enough fixture. Although, goodness me, Liverpool away from home this season, tough to get too enthused about that, isn't it? I mean, we've included Salah, Darwin, and TAA if you wanted to go really rogue, but that's not something that's easy to back up in terms of form or predictive points metric that I wouldn't suggest.
Yeah, I think the big questions here are: do people go to Haaland before 34? Because it's not as much of a foregone conclusion as it was. If they do they go from Kane or do they go from Tony? If they don't, how do you get to Salah?
Yeah. And do you think, that's just to get your thoughts on Salah, Mark? I mean, I heard yesterday it was his 23rd goal in the resounding defeat. We mentioned how well Man City played and they dismissed Liverpool, didn't they? But it was another great finish from Salah, and it's weird because they've been really disappointing as a collective this season. But 23 goals on the season, all competitions for Salah. You still think it's just a sensible, straightforward FPL pick that we should just get behind?
I think given the double and given the fixtures leading up to it, it's pretty straightforward to think to understand how it can be a good idea.
Yeah.
They're just unpredictable, Liverpool. But even if a player can get 6 points when they lose 4-1, imagine what he can do when they win 7-0.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need to imagine.
No, sorry, you brought that up, not me. I wasn't going to talk
Sorry.
about that one. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm sure that's a fading memory already.
Still hurts.
Yeah, no, it's going to hurt for a while because you know that it's going to get brought up by certain groups of fans, I'm sure. Maddison obviously was a popular pick, Mark, going into this big double game week. We're halfway through it, not to get too downbeat about things. He's been playing so well. England call up, etc., etc. You still like him as a pick?
I really wanted to get him this week, and that's what made the Saka news a little bit more sour.
Yeah.
It would have been a hit, but Rodgers is gone today.
Yeah.
What does it mean? I didn't particularly fancy this double for Leicester. Roy Hodgson's first game, and as we spoke about already, Villa are good now.
Yeah, they are.
So, can Leicester beat Villa? I have my doubts, particularly now that they're managerless.
Yeah, if anything, you'd be going the other way, right? In terms of the excitement that you'd have for the Villa boys, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
I think I heard that they've scored in every game under Emery since he took the job. I think I've got certainly a stat I'd heard on recently, and they played ever so well at Stamford Bridge. I thought they were really good value for their win there. So, Ollie Watkins, eh? Who would have thought it? That he's become a mainstay in the frontline section for FPL. Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
He's not actually that highly owned as you might think.
No.
I was surprised.
Yeah, and that might continue, but I think he's been on such a great run, hasn't he? And yeah, if he does well in this double, and he's already returned nicely for his owners in the first half of the double, then I'm sure that will continue. Anyone else you want to talk about in this matrix here, Mark? I'd be interested in the Arsenal, I guess, conversation, because people have talked about removing their assets en masse, the league leaders chasing the title and what have you. How do you stand on that as a sort of broader topic in relation to holding Arsenal players for the final several game weeks of the season? What do you think about them?
I think removing the defenders was a perfectly cromulent decision. They're not too strong at the back, and then Saliba goes missing, and they could have conceded early yesterday. I was half watching that game. They could have conceded early, and then they looked really set for a clean sheet and got a little bit unlucky with a deflection off Zinchenko.
Yeah.
I think selling the defenders is fine. And in the context of this week, selling Saka or Martinelli or Odegaard, that was also fine. And also having them for the next 2 or 3 is great. So I'm, despite the Saka situation, I'm really happy to have him going into Liverpool and West Ham.
It's not a scary fixture, is it? Away at Liverpool,
no,
right
no,
now?
not at all.
It's not at all, is it? Especially with how Trent's been playing on that right hand side. Goodness me, for attacks down the left, and maybe they'll even profit with crosses going to the other side. So that's not scary. They play West Ham after that, and then they've got that Southampton home match in the blank game week 32. So yeah, I like them.
Yeah, I mean, the double game week so far has largely been a wash. The people that we took hits for to bring in have not performed. No. I brought in 2, Bruno and Estepinian. No good.
Nope.
So let's see how it goes on Wednesday. But
yeah, half time.
Yeah, exactly. I think people might be pleased they still have some Arsenal assets at the next deadline.
Yeah, it's how it tends to go. But look, we're always going to get excited about double game weeks, aren't we, Mark? That's why we play, and so where we can try and get away from this, as you say, this sort of treading water that's been happening for a lot of managers over the last several game weeks. Look, Mark, it's been a pleasure. Any final thoughts on any of these players? Any final thoughts ahead of game week 30 that you want to get off your chest?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a long way to go. I think most people will have at least 11 players to go, and there hasn't been any great movement yet in terms of people's scores. They look to be, somewhere between 60 and 70 in almost all cases I see. So a long way to go, and in 2 days' time, the whole story could have turned upside down.
Absolutely, but we will see how that plays out, Mark. And it looks like you're set fair. You're doing really well again, and the team's set up well for the rest of double game week 29, and certainly looking ahead to game week 30 and beyond. So it'll be really interesting to see how that played out when we get you back on the channel in a few weeks, and I wish you, of course, good luck. So guys, do please smash a like on the video on your way out. Do please subscribe to fantasyfootballfix.com. Do please subscribe to fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel as well, and do please drop a comment down below to Mark ahead of game week 30, and I look forward to talking to you all next week. Have a good week. Bye bye.